We're joined now by Narita Nagin and Subra Somayajula, a husband and wife at the centre of the Australian travel ban. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, Subra, you travelled to India to look after your ailing mother, and now you are unable to return home to Sydney. Your reaction to this news from the Australian government that they're threatening to fine you up to $66,000 or even jail you for up to 5 years if you return home?
Yes. Hello, Maria. I did travel to India, I think, at the end of March, and it was only after I secured an exemption from the government to travel here to care for my mum. So when the restrictions were put in place over the last weekend, it came as a surprise, and obviously I feel quite betrayed and rejected by my own government, and that my life and citizenship isn't really worth as much.
Betrayed and rejected, you say. Narita, your reaction when you heard that news?
Well, firstly, Maria, I was very anxious as to when my husband will be able to come home. I think that was my key. That's what I've been feeling every day, and I've been sort of struggling to sleep and all of that because of that. I also feel very worried about Subra's health. If anything goes wrong while he's in India, including if he gets COVID or any other minor ailments, the system there, the medical system, the hospitals, they're all crumbling and not coping very well. So I'm very concerned about that as well. And also, I was very shocked because it's a very drastic and unprecedented decision by the government.
And we've just heard that Cricket Australia has had to send its Australian players and staff from India to a third country in order to bring them back to Australia. Subra, how does that make you feel?
Well, good for them, because at the end of the day, they're Australians, so find a way to bring them back home. But I think they need to do something for regular citizens too, because at the end of the day, like 9,000 Australians are stranded in India. It's not just 9,000 people, it's 9,000 families, so they need to be looked after too. So do whatever you can to bring them home.
And why isn't quarantine an option, Narita? And you recently wrote an article in which you said, you asked, is Australia a fair weather friend, only there for you in good times?
Yeah, so I mean, I feel that the government doesn't have confidence in its own quarantine system as it currently is, and it's also quite fearful of COVID, and so it's taken a really extreme and quite a conservative stance on it. It doesn't feel very good that it has, completely. It hasn't helped Subra and the other 9,000 Australians that are stuck in India.
And Subra, what is the situation around you? How does it feel to be stuck there now?
It's quite overwhelming. The situation is quite dire, and everything you kind of hear in the news and you read is in fact very true. And it's progressively getting worse. In fact, we're getting news today that situation is going to get significantly worse over the next 2 to 3 weeks. And as you know, infrastructure is unable to cope today due to lack of hospital beds, oxygen, medical supplies to even treat patients, and all of this is resulting in so much death. So just to imagine what might happen if this is not in fact the peak, and it could actually get worse in the next 2 to 3 weeks is quite challenging to think about.
And, because India doesn't have dual citizenship, as your wife mentioned, what could happen to you if you did get sick? That's a huge worry.
I don't know. I guess I'm just taking it day by day. If something does happen, in all honesty, there is no one really to look after me or take care of me. So I just need to find a way to get myself admitted to the hospital, if that is even an option at that point. So all of this, as Nari just mentioned, is giving a lot of stress and anxiety for both of us and our families.
And what does your embassy tell you, Subra?
Yes, I mean, when the restrictions came out on Saturday, I did receive correspondence from the High Commission, and they did say that the new restrictions are in place and the borders are closed, and I'm not allowed to travel back into the country unless I spend at least 14 days or about outside Australia, outside India. What I was told is, try and be safe, continue to stay safe and follow the advice of the local agencies. And if there are any, options that are available to bring us back home, as and when they're made available, they'll let us know.
And your message to the Australian government, Narita?
Well, I just hope the Australian government does the right thing and changes its policy, and quite quickly. Australians' lives are at risk at the moment, and it's a huge human rights concern, and that's been raised by the UN and the Australian Human Rights Commission. So ultimately, Australians must have the right to come home.
And yours, final thoughts there from you, Subra, your message to the Australian government?
My wife summed it up pretty clearly and nicely. Australia, the government has to do everything it can and more to bring its citizens back home. The situation here is quite dire.
Thank you so much to both of you. Do stay safe, Subra, and I hope your mother is getting better. Thank you so much for coming on the programme, to both of you, and I hope you'll be reunited very soon. Thank you.
Thanks
for
very
having
much,
us.
Maria.